lose yourself in a good book. The Bookclub Energy Book Club.
Now, The Pleasure Seasons is a series of books by Evie Hunter, who is in fact two Irish authors, Caroline McCall and Eileen Gormley, who first met at a creative writing workshop.
Discovering that they shared a passion for erotic fiction, they became close friends and set about penning the series, which could be dubbed Ireland's answer to 50 Shades of Grey. Ladies, you're very welcome.
Good morning.
Back again, because we met you 2 years ago.
That's right. Yes.
And if you don't mind, if we can recap and go back to what we talked about in the first interview, how you both met. And your writing experience prior to meeting. You met at a creative writing workshop. What had you been writing before individually?
I'd been writing science fiction.
Okay.
Caroline had been writing sexy fairies.
Sexy fairies.
And some sci-fi.
And some sci-fi, okay.
And I've been published by an American company called Allura's Cave.
And so then you met at this workshop.
Yeah.
And out of that, when did you decide, because to write erotic literature is one thing, to write it together, collectively, is an unusual decision. So how did that come about?
We decided we'd write the first novella just for fun.
Okay. So was it just an exercise for the workshop?
No, it was a submission deadline.
Okay.
And we had, I think, a month to do it, and we just said...
We thought we had a month, then we discovered we had 10 days. So we were just writing like maniacs, emailing it backwards and forwards to each other. We got it in time. To our surprise, it was published and sold very well and got a lot of publicity.
But Eileen, you're a working journalist, so therefore you would have been used to the pressure and deadlines and all the rest of it. So although that, it's a bit of a shock when you discovered you've got a quarter of the time to do it that you thought you did, but that would have galvanised you, surely.
It galvanised us both. But there was no pressure really except the actual deadline, because we didn't expect it was going to be anything big.
Did it help in the sense that you didn't have enough time to actually overthink it?
We winged it, I think.
Yes,
definitely.
We basically emailed it backwards and forwards to each other, read what the other one had written and thought, how can I top this?
So, but how did the conversation go where you went, hey, let's write some erotic literature together?
I think initially we didn't set out to write erotic literature.
Okay.
What we love to write is plot. We do like racy romance, so we didn't say, oh my God, we're erotic writers. We just said, let's write a really good book.
Okay,
with
racy romance,
sex
erotic literature. What's the dividing line, and where does it cross from one to the other?
I think it has to be down to story and plot. What we write is a very strong story, very strong characters, a plot that will carry you through the book, even if you skip over the sexy bits. But we do like writing them because they're fun.
And so how do you write as a pair?
We do what we call split POV, split point of view.
Okay.
So I generally take the girl part, Eileen will take the guy, and we write back and forth at each other.
And do you discuss?
Switch?
Yeah.
Sorry,
we switched for the last book, but for the first 3 books, Eileen did the boy bit and I did the girl bit.
When you're writing, actually, here's a question for you. I mean, you're both two lovely, eminently respectable women, but when you're writing that kind of stuff, I know it's an act of imagination and fiction, but it's also an active part of your personality. So when you're doing that, are you ever worried about revealing maybe a little bit about your own preferences, or do you ever think it's too self-revelatory?
You have to put a bit of yourself into everything you write, otherwise it doesn't resonate with the reader. So
when you're talking about the sex act, or you're talking about acts of a sexual nature, that's very personally revelatory.
We put ourselves into the skin of our characters. So if I'm, let's say, the guy in a particular story, if I'm Andy, I will put myself inside Andy's head and inside Andy's skin and write the story as Andy.
Did you ever worry about having an authentic voice as a man, especially from a sex perspective, because that's something you just literally haven't experienced?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So basically I lined up a load of men and I made them talk me through kinky sex. Seriously, moment by moment, exactly how does it feel to them, what's going through their minds, what are they getting.
These men?
They're willing to talk.
There's no shortage of men.
Okay, right, that's okay. There's an act of pure fiction and fantasy as a writer. You're creating something in a situation that you couldn't possibly know anything about, because obviously you're a female. When you're revealing, about the inner workings of a female's fantasies, then you're in danger of revealing yourself. So, I mean, okay, you can say, well, look, this is an act of fiction or fantasy, but your partner might be going, hang on a second here, that's very close to the bone. That's us you're talking about.
I don't think so. I mean, my husband doesn't read my stuff. He just laughs and says, oh my God, another book. You're writing within the framework of a character. There would be stuff in the book that you would research, but you wouldn't necessarily do it yourself. You would talk to people who had done it or who were experts in a particular area.
So when you
So you don't believe in method writing, no?
It would take too long. We're too busy.
Okay.
But when you swapped roles then, why was that decision taken, just to mix it up a bit and see how it went?
Partly also, Caroline just loved The Last Hero. She wanted to do him.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That's an unfortunate phrase. No.
I was just about to say,
please.
just clarify that.
and I really liked the
children have gone to school.
I really liked the heroine. I wanted
So
to.
you wrote as the boy for the first time. So does that mean you had to go and chat to men about kinky sex and how it is for
No,
them?
I think he'd been in a couple of books as a secondary character, so I felt very much inside his head. So it was easier to actually go and write him this time. Thinking up things to do that we hadn't done before was the hard bit.
Yeah, are you sometimes flicking through going, done that, done that,
Yeah,
done
yeah,
that? What
yeah.
is there left to do?
Yeah, that's always stuff.
Well, there's always stuff. The question is having stuff that people can relate to.
Yeah,
Ordinary people are not millionaires. They don't have dungeons at home with, massive amounts of equipment and all this kind of thing. You want to write a book that people say, okay, haven't tried that, but it sounds interesting.
What about the comparisons with 50 Shades? We were talking about that a little earlier on because there's a story about this huge rise in STIs in middle-aged people who've been influenced by, or have reignited the passion in their lives by buying 50 Shades. And your immediate reaction was, we tell people how to do it properly. And there's no legislating for stupidity.
You advocate safe sex as well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I think
but how do you feel about the comparisons with that? Are you flattered by it, or do you think, no, actually,
I'd love to sell that many books.
Yeah.
100 million books.
Yeah, I'd love to sell that amount of books. It'd be great. I'd be able to give up the day job.
What do you think she tapped into that nobody had done previously?
I think it was the intensity of the relationship and tons of kinky sex.
Do you not feel, and I know that you felt this, and a couple of, my wife read it and she thought, grand, and other women who read it and thought, you know what, this is taking women back 50, 100 years. That it actually, the female protagonist in that, what she allowed to be done to herself, was...
And particularly in parts she didn't enjoy, and she was kind of, subjected to things.
It's one of the things that we discovered was a huge myth. A lot of the kink relationships, there is a huge power exchange. One person appears to have the power of the other. But it's actually the submissive in the scene who holds the power. She or he is the person with the vote, with the veto. The one who can always withhold consent and say, not working for me, I'm gone.
Okay, yeah.
It didn't look or read like she was enjoying it very much, I have to say. But anyway, listen, you're not here to talk about that. There's 4 books in this Pleasure Season series: The Pleasure of Winter, Summer, Autumn and Spring. The Pleasure of Spring is the final one, which is the one that is out.
Correct, yeah.
And
I love the little tagline.
I can't believe you had a hero called MacTavish.
My great-granddad was Scots.
I bet she wasn't called MacTavish.
No.
You wanted to remember your granddad.
I wanted a Mac in it.
All right, okay.
I love the little tagline in the book, which was, I thought I could tame him. I was wrong.
We didn't write that.
Well, it's a booming business, and long may it boom.
Actually, you've churned out 4 books since we last saw you.
And we've been published in Japan, France, Italy and Czechoslovakia.
So continued success. Continued success. Lovely to see you again. Lovely to see you doing so well. Now, congratulations to Ciara Adams from County Cavan, who is the winner of this month's competition. You can read her review by going to www.tv3.ie/bookclub. Next month's choice is The Thrill of It, the latest novel by the award-winning Irish writer and one of our favourite people, Joseph O'Connor. If you would like to be in with a chance of winning a book club goodie bag and Versus tablet, then send your reviews of no more than 50 words, just 50, to us by Friday, June the 20th. You can email them to irelandam@tv3.ie or post them to Bord Gáis Energy Book Club, TV3 Westgate Business Park, Ballymount, Dublin 24.
Lose yourself in a good book. The Bord Gáis Energy Book Club.